They sprayed air freshener when she walked past. Twice. Not once. Twice. In a bright glass building filled with smiling people and spotless shoes. They reached for the lemon-scented can the moment she entered and whispered behind hands that smelled of cologne and cream. That was how it began for Zuri. The first thing they noticed wasn't her voice or her idea. It was her scent. It wasn't her fault. It was the smoke. The wood fire. The sweat from walking 5 blocks under the morning sun. The faint trace of boiled cassava and charcoal that clung to her clothes like a second skin. It was the smell of her truth, and it arrived 5 steps before she did. She had no idea this was how it would start. She stood in front of the glittering towers of Neurotech, the largest clean energy company in the region. The doors gleamed like mirrors. The flags fluttered in the breeze. Cameras turned, capturing every angle of the contestants. This was the People's Innovation Quest, the final round. Only 10 finalists had made it here from across the country. Zuri Okomo was one of them. She was 24. She was barefoot only a month ago. Now she stood in borrowed black shoes that didn't quite fit. Her blouse was once white, but had faded into the color of rice water. Her skirt hung loosely on her slim frame, clean but worn at the edges. Her hair was pulled into a careful bun with a single black ribbon. In her hand, she clutched a plastic folder with her notes. Inside were pages that had been folded and refolded until the edges turned soft. Her palms were damp. Her stomach growled. The receptionist glanced up, then down again, barely hiding the frown. Zuri stepped in. The lobby was bright, polished, humming with cold air and electronic voices. The other candidates stood in neat clusters, all polished shoes and perfume clouds, suits too sharp, teeth too white. Some laughed like they belonged there. Zuri did not laugh. She found a seat farthest from the table with pastries and chilled pineapple juice. The girl closest to the table narrowed her eyes, sniffed, and turned dramatically. "Oh stars," she muttered. "Who let the village grill in?" Here, laughter fluttered like moths around the room. That girl was Kendi, tall, light-skinned, glowing in gold earrings and high heels. Her hair curled in expensive spirals. She had the kind of face that lived for camera angles. She smirked. The others smirked too. Zuri pretended not to hear. But she did. She always did. The memories of every insult she had ever heard gathered in her throat like hot steam. She stared at her shoes. Just then, a man in a navy jacket entered the room. "All finalists with me," he said. One by one, they filed into a long hallway that smelled of glass and new money. Cameras lined the corridor like guards. At the Comedy end stood a giant room with wide screens, blinking lights, and company executives waiting in rows. A banner above read, "Neurotech's next visionary, final live pitch." Every finalist had 60 seconds. One idea, one shot. Zuri was number 6. She sat, her hands shaking around her notes. The others presented first, talking of smart agriculture, AI health scanners, digital climate models. They spoke in charts, moving graphs, polished slides. Words like disruption and decarbonize flew like birds across the room. Zuri's folder stayed shut. She had no charts. She had one idea: sun-powered cooking stoves for families like hers, people who couldn't afford gas, who burned wood every day and choked on the same smoke that once swallowed her home. Then her name was called, Zuri Okomo. She stood. Her heart knocked in her chest. As she walked to the front, she passed one of the junior managers, a man in glasses with a bored expression. He reached into a drawer, pulled out an air freshener, and sprayed it once, twice. A few people chuckled. A camera light blinked red. Zuri's breath caught. She closed her eyes for 1 second and remembered her mother coughing in the dark, her uncle's bandaged arms. The fire, the smell that never left. Then she opened her eyes and spoke. "Good morning." My name is Zuri Okumo. I am from Mabaraka, a village where the sun is strong, but our lungs are weak. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. I want to talk about fire, the kind that cooks and the kind that kills. The kind that we use because we have nothing else. She didn't use big words. She used memories and math, smoke inhalation rates, burn accidents, school absences due to fuel collection. The numbers poured from her heart, not from a PowerPoint. The room went still. Even Kendi stopped chewing her gum. One panelist tapped her pen. Another leaned forward. A third nodded. Zuri finished, bowed, walked away. Her throat was dry. Her eyes burned. She stepped outside and sat on the back steps behind the building. No one followed. No one said anything. She buried her face in her hands. She didn't think she failed because of her idea. She thought she failed because she smelled like what people pretend doesn't exist. A janitor walked past. Bucket, mop. A slow grin. He didn't speak, just winked. Zuri didn't smile back. She stood, went to collect her bag. It was soaked. Foam dripped from the bottom. A bitter, stinging smell of bleach and chemical cleaner filled the air. Oh no, someone shrieked. Did something spill? Kendi again. She laughed. Smells like she bathed in toilet water. Zuri picked up the bag. Her hands trembled. Her eyes filled, but she didn't let the tears fall. Not yet. She walked out. Behind her, near the receptionist's desk, a man in a plain white shirt stood quietly. His name was Bayo Daramola. He had been watching since the moment Zuri stepped in. He had seen it all. And something inside him, something old and buried, had cracked open. Outside, the streets were wet from early rain. Zuri slipped off her tight shoes and walked barefoot. Her bag dripped. People passed her. Some turned away. Some laughed. Others muttered. She kept walking. Lamoko was 10 blocks from the city's last proper road. The streetlights ended 5 blocks before. What came next were tin roofs, open drains, and smoke rising from fires started before sunset. She reached her home. One crooked wooden door. One room. One life. She pushed it open. Inside was hot. Still dark. "Mama," she whispered, "I'm home." From the corner mat, a soft cough answered. Her mother, thin and wrapped in cloth, opened her eyes. "Zuri," she said weakly. "Did they choose you?" Zuri smiled, just a little. "I don't know yet. But I gave them something they'll never forget." She sat beside her, took a bottle of herbs from her bag, massaged Mama's legs, added drops of leaf oil to her tea. Mama sniffed. "You smell like bleach," Zuri laughed, a sad small sound. "Long story," she didn't explain. "Not yet, not today." 5 years ago, the fire came like a thief. It was early morning in Bahula, a quiet village hidden behind the hills near the old salt road. The sun had barely touched the roofs when a shriek tore through the air. Zuri's mother, Mama Lami, had lit the stove like she did every day. One match, one prayer. But that morning, something went wrong. A leaking tank, a hiss, a flash. The fire leapt like a beast. Zuri, just 19, was brushing her shoes outside when she heard her mother's scream. She dropped everything and ran. By the time she dragged her mother out through the smoke, the room was already swallowed. The roof collapsed minutes later. Everything they owned, gone. Books, mattresses, photographs, her father's old radio. Even her final exam notes, carefully handwritten with dreams, ashes. The villagers came running. Buckets of water, shouts. But it was too late. The house crumbled. And something inside Zuri did too. From that day forward, they lived in a borrowed room made of rusted zinc and patched fabric. The village elders helped build it, but it never felt like home. Mama Lami's lungs never healed. The cough stayed, dry and rough like footsteps on gravel. Every evening, Zuri lit firewood outside, cooking porridge and beans while the smoke climbed around her. Like a second skin. She tried soap, scrubbing, oil, ash. Nothing worked. No matter what she did, the smell of fire followed her, like a ghost that refused to leave. Now in the cold silence of Neurotech's surveillance room, a man named Ao leaned forward. He wasn't supposed to be there. Not in this hidden chamber of screens and shadows, but he had quietly requested access. "Rewind to the hallway," he said, his voice low. Time ... 3:14 p.m. The technician nodded and tapped the keys. The cameras blinked, the image rolled back, a cleaning staff. A dark corridor. The back bench where all the finalists had left their bags. A bottle appeared. A hand moved fast. Uncapped, splashed, replaced. The cleaner walked away like nothing happened. Then a message was sent. The screen froze. The name of the recipient, Kendi. Ao narrowed his eyes. His jaw tightened. He had seen Kendi too many times, always smiling. Always close, always saying the right thing in public and something else in private. "She paid him," he whispered. Outside, the city was quiet. Zuri sat at the edge of her bed, eyes puffy from crying, holding a teacup she couldn't sip from. She didn't want to go back. After everything, the stares, the laughter, the soaked. Bag, how could she show her face again? But Mama Lamy placed a gentle hand on her daughter's back. "You walked through worse," she said, her voice cracked. "You walked through real fire. Don't let their looks burn you again." So the next morning, Zuri got up. She wore her only good skirt, brown cotton with a tiny tear stitched with orange thread. Her blouse was white, pressed with care. She borrowed shoes again, this time from Auntie Nima, 2 blocks away. She washed her bag with lemon water and dried it under the sun. She braided her hair, rubbed her skin with shea butter, took a deep breath. Then she walked. At the company gates, a security guard stepped forward. "Miss Zuri Okamo?" "Yes?" He handed her an envelope. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. "Congratulations. You have been selected as a junior analyst for Neurotech's Clean Energy Program. Please report to headquarters Monday at 9 a.m. Zuri stared at the paper, read it once, then again, her mouth parted. She didn't move. Tears welled in her eyes. Inside the building, chaos had erupted. Kendi slammed her file on the table. "What do you mean she got the job? I scored higher in testing. This is a joke, a village sympathy stunt." No one replied. Monday morning, Zuri walked into the Neurotech building, shoulders straight, heart shaking, ivory walls, glass elevators, the scent of air conditioning and printed paper. Kendi stood at the front desk, perfect in pastel pink. "Hi, Zuri," she said brightly, her smile stretched like plastic. "So happy you're with us," Zuri blinked. "Thanks." An hour later, during the team tea break, Kendi walked past her. Their shoulders brushed, then splash. Hot tea spilled down Zuri's. White blouse, gasps. "Oh, no," Kendi said sweetly. "I'm so clumsy." Some laughed under their breath. Others turned away, pretending not to see. Zuri stood frozen. Her blouse was soaked. Brown tea stained her chest like a bruise. Her hands trembled. Then, "Here." The voice came from behind her. It was calm, steady, quiet. "Ao." He removed his own tailored jacket, charcoal gray, lined in silk, and gently placed it over Zuri's shoulders. The room went silent. Even Kendi blinked. Zuri stared at him. I can't." "You can," he said. "You earned this. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." She couldn't speak. And no one knew it yet, but that single gesture would shift everything. By the second week, whispers had already curled through all 3 floors of Neurotech. "She's the one who smells like firewood. Did you see Mr. Ao give her his jacket? What's their story?" Is he bored or in love? Zuri heard it all, so she stopped using the elevator. She sat alone during lunch at the back of the canteen, near the open windows where the smell of leftover stew mixed with mop water. She ate slowly, carefully. She didn't really taste anything. Then one day, a chair beside her moved. She looked up, startled. It was a cleaner. Blue jumpsuit, crooked smile. Mind if I sit here? He asked. She blinked. No, it's fine. He didn't eat right away. Just watched her, gentle and still. Zuri, right? She nodded. From Bahula? Big move. He said. Big struggle too, she replied with a faint smile. What's your story? He asked. Something in his voice, warm, steady, patient, made her answer. She told him about the fire, the stove, the screams, Mama's cough, the soot, the laughter from people who smelled like safety and air freshener, how even soap couldn't clean away poverty. I just want a chance, she whispered. He looked at her. You deserve one, he said softly. She opened her mouth to thank him, wailing siren. A fire alarm. Loud, sudden, terrifying. People screamed. Chairs scraped. Heels clicked. Laptops were left behind. Evacuate! Evacuate! Zuri jumped up. Her eyes scanned the crowd. Then she saw him. Mr. Kondo, the accounts manager, elderly, gentle, in a wheelchair, alone near the stairs, struggling. People ran past. Someone even bumped his chair. Kendi screamed near the door, waving a file. Don't forget the reports. Zuri didn't hesitate. She ran. Grabbed Mr. Kondo's handles. Pushed hard. Down the side ramp, around the sharp turn. Her palms burned. Her skirt caught in the wheels. She didn't stop. They reached the courtyard just as the others poured out, sweating, coughing. Zuri wheeled him toward the shade. Then a black SUV glided in. Out stepped Chief Daramola, the founder of Neurotech, the boss of bosses, the legend. People fixed their ties. Some adjusted wigs. He walked past them all. Came straight to Zuri. What's your name? He asked, voice deep, calm. She froze. Zuri Okomo. She still held the wheelchair. Her hands were black with grease. Her blouse soaked again. The scent of smoke and soap clung to her skin. Before he could say more, Kendi stepped forward, loud, sweet, smiling. Sir, I've been meaning to say. This girl always smells a bit strange. It's not professional. Gasps. Silence. Zuri's heart cracked. Her head dropped. Then the chief turned to Kendi, then to Zuri, then back to Kendi. His face was unreadable. But his voice? Cold, clear, deep. That smell, he said, reminds me of my mother. Everyone turned. We lived near the refinery in Izaba. She cooked with wood. That smoke followed her everywhere, even into her grave. And no one, not then, not now, has the right to shame it. Kendi's mouth fell open. Zuri looked up, eyes wide. Thank you, the chief added, turning to her. For helping Mr. Kondo. That's what leadership looks like. He turned, walked away. The crowd parted in silence. Behind them, near the building wall, the cleaner in the blue jumpsuit stood quietly, arms folded. His eyes were quiet. But his heart was thundering. Zuri didn't know. She couldn't have. She didn't know that the man in the blue jumpsuit, standing beneath the shade of the mango tree, wasn't just another cleaner. He was Ao Daramola, son of the man who had just defended her in front of everyone, son of the founder. A man who had grown up in power, wealth, and rooms that never smelled like struggle. But that moment when his father looked at Zuri, not with disgust but with something else, recognition, it did something to him. It rattled something loose. It stirred the dust on old memories. That smell ... his father had said. It reminds me of my mother. The words kept circling in Ao's mind, even as the crowd slowly returned to their desks, buzzing with questions. Did you see how the chief stood up for her? Maybe they're related. Maybe she's pregnant. Maybe it's pity. Some whispered kindness. Others still mocked. But Ao didn't sleep that night. He lay in his bed, the fan whirring overhead, his mind spiraling. Zuri's voice echoed in his ears, the way it broke when she spoke about her past. Her hands trembling when she clutched. Her tea-stained blouse. Her smile, faint but unbroken after all the humiliation. And his father's face. The way his voice cracked, just slightly, when he spoke about firewood and refinery shacks. Something didn't add up. Something felt buried. At exactly 2:03 a.m., Ao rose from bed. He moved quietly through the Daramola estate, past the marble hallway lined with portraits, to the private study his father had locked years ago. It was cold. Still, he had the backup key. One he wasn't supposed to have. He unlocked the door. Inside were rows of books, plaques, awards, and old files stacked like forgotten prayers. He began digging. Drawer after drawer, cabinet after cabinet. Then he found it. A folder, yellowed with time, its edges burnt like a secret trying to hide. Title: Efa Okomo, Bahula Incident. Unresolved compensation. 15 years. O sat slowly. He opened the file with shaking hands. Inside, a faded photo. Flames devouring. A wooden shack. A crying woman clutching a child. Their faces blurred, but somehow still full of fear and fire. He knew that face. It was Zuri. Next page. A government report. A summary of how Neurotech had been caught dumping chemical waste in the nearby stream of Bahula. How the toxins had caused a buildup of gas. How a faulty cooking tank had ignited a fire. No payout issued. Case closed as inconclusive. Victim family relocated. Further claims discouraged. No signature. Just a stamp. Pending. Not pursued. Ao's throat tightened. So that smell wasn't just firewood. It was the lingering smoke of a tragedy his family helped create. At sunrise, Ao arrived at Neurotech's boardroom before anyone else. He wore black, no smile, no charm. Just the folder. One by one, the board members trickled in. Gray suits, coffee cups. Frowns of annoyance. He placed the folder at the kandu, center of the table. "We owe someone," he said. Silence. "I'm not here as your founder's son today. I'm here because if we don't fix this company is just polished rubble built on broken backs," some murmured. Some sat up. Straighter, some refused to meet his eyes. But the folder was opened. And the truth leaked out. While Ao fought for justice in that quiet room, Kendi was plotting something else. She had seen the way Ao looked at Zuri. The jacket, the smile, the silence. She knew she had lost. And she wasn't going to lose quietly. She logged into her burner account. She edited old hallway footage. Pixelated Zuri's face. Adjusted the timestamp. She added a red circle over a paused moment that showed Zuri leaning over a desk, her hand barely visible near a purse. She typed the caption. "Caught. New girl stealing from a coworker. Watch till the end." She clicked upload. And the storm began. By noon, the video had gone viral across staff phones. Gasp emojis, angry comments, zoomed screenshots. Thief, pretender. She fooled everyone. At lunchtime, Zuri was summoned. The HR manager's voice on the intercom was stiff. No warmth. Zuri entered the conference room with cautious steps, her palms already sweaty. Inside were two directors, the HR officer, and Kendi standing by the window, arms crossed, her expression blank. "Miss Okomo," the HR officer began, folding her hands on the table. "A serious allegation has come to our attention." She turned the screen. The video played, blurry, jerky, but damning. Zuri's mouth opened slightly. I didn't do that." Her voice cracked. "I swear, that's not real. I never..." Her knees wobbled. "Please, I would never do something like this." Kendi let out a small sigh. "Let's not be dramatic," she said sweetly. "If it was a mistake, just admit it." Zuri gasped. "I swear on my mother's life, I've done nothing wrong." Her voice trembled. Her eyes filled. She looked around. No one looked back with kindness. The HR officer stood. "We may have to suspend you, pending." The door opened. Ao stepped in. Everyone turned. He was calm, but his eyes were burning. He walked to the table, placed the folder in the center. Then he looked up and said, loud and clear, "She's not a thief. She's the victim of your silence." The room froze. Even Kendi's jaw clenched. Ayo's voice sharpened. "You judged her smell. You laughed at her skin. You passed her over and painted her with shame." He pointed at the file. "Her mother burned in a fire we helped cause. This company dumped waste that ruined a village. And when the smoke followed her here, instead of justice, we gave her mockery." No one moved. Zuri sat still. Tears poured. But this time, they weren't from shame. They were from something else. She was being seen. Really seen. Not as the girl who smelled like smoke, but as the girl who walked through it and kept going. The boardroom had never felt this tense. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, but it didn't warm the air. The men and women seated around. The polished mahogany table sat stiffly, jaws tight, brows furrowed. Some fidgeted with pens. Others simply stared at the man standing at the head of the room. Ao Daramola stood tall, a folder in one hand and truth on his lips. He looked directly into the eyes of the company's most powerful people, directors, executives, founding members, the same people who had once dismissed whispers of village fires and chemical leaks as unfortunate side notes. His voice was clear, deep, and deliberate. "Our hands," he said, "have done more than build this company. They have broken lives." Silence. He stepped forward, placing the folder on the center of the table. Inside were names, photos, reports, evidence of what Neurotech had done in Bahula village all those years ago. The very incident that had taken everything from Zuri Okamo and her mother. "The fire in Bahula didn't just destroy homes," Ayo continued. "It destroyed futures, and we did nothing. No letter, no payment, not even an apology." The room held its breath. At the far end, Chief Daramola, founder and CEO, sat still. His usual command was shadowed by something softer, regret. He opened his mouth, hesitated, then sighed. "I remember that case," he said, his voice heavy. "The reports came across my desk. I didn't read them all. I trusted others to clean it up. They didn't." A pause, long. Guilt thickened the air. "I cannot undo the past," Chief said, voice lowering, "but I can begin to repair it." Murmurs rustled through the room. Then, the chief looked around from face to face and declared, "I hereby approve full compensation for the families of the Bahula incident. And as a first step, I will appoint leadership to someone who stood in fire and still chose to protect others." Heads turned. Every gaze locked onto one name, one face, Zuri. Whispers floated. Some whispered praise, others shame. Even those who had mocked her before, Kendi among them, sat silent now, their confidence leaking out like slow air from a balloon. Later that afternoon, a company-wide email arrived. Subject line, appointment announcement, Zuri Okamo. Head of community projects. Some clapped, some stared. Some rolled their eyes behind screens. But one thing was clear. A shift had happened. Zuri sat in a new office. Big desk, white walls. Windows overlooking the city skyline. It still smelled like polish and fresh paint. She held a pen in her trembling hand. In front of her was a contract. She had read it twice. Still didn't believe it. Her fingers hovered over the signature line. How had it happened? The girl who was once laughed at, sprayed with air freshener and accused of stealing, was now leading the company's first ever social impact division. She signed. The pen wobbled slightly, but the signature was hers. Days passed. Then, weeks. Zuri moved between meetings and village visits, mapping out clean stove projects, drafting school energy programs, and visiting the very communities the company had once ignored. The press picked up the story. From fire to foundation, how one woman forced a company to face itself. Pictures of Zuri were everywhere, her in a head wrap and sandals, standing beside villagers, holding solar panels, planting trees. People were watching, listening. Neurotech, once a symbol of wealth and distance, was slowly becoming something else, a company with a heartbeat. In the middle of it all, Zuri remained quiet. Humble, determined, she named the initiative the LAMI Foundation after her mother, the woman whose cough had inspired the solar stove idea, the woman whose quiet pain had changed a system. One warm afternoon, Zuri stepped out onto the rooftop garden. It was a quiet place, potted plants, bamboo benches, and the hush of the city below. The sun bathed everything in soft gold. Zuri closed her eyes, feeling the breeze on her face. For the first time in a long time, her shoulders didn't feel heavy. She heard footsteps. When she turned, Ao stood at the railing. No jumpsuit today, no shadows. Just him, in a light shirt and tired smile. He didn't say anything at first. Then, quietly, "If I told you I admired you from the very beginning, would you believe me?" Zuri blinked. Her mind flashed through memories, spilled tea, cruel laughter, the fake theft video, the wheelchair. Escape, the chief's voice cutting through silence. She looked at Ao and saw not the CEO's son, not the man in disguise, but the one person who had seen her before the applause. Her lips curved. "Only if you stop calling me, ma'am," she said. He laughed, soft, surprised, real. She laughed too. It wasn't a loud sound, but it was honest. And it carried. A breeze swept through the garden, rustling the leaves like applause. They stood side by side, leaning on the rail, watching the city stretch beneath them. Cars like ants, voices like dust, buildings catching the last light of day. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ao said, "You changed everything." Zuri turned to him. "No," she said. "The truth did. I just refused to let go of it." Inside the building, the chief sat alone in his office, staring at an old photo of his own mother, worn wrapper, firewood in her hands, a smile that had once lit up the slums of his Abba. He closed his eyes. He whispered, "I'm sorry." Then he turned to draft an open letter, a public apology. He wrote about Bahula, about corporate failure, about rebuilding trust not with words, but with action. The letter went viral. People didn't believe it at first, but then they saw the work begin. Water tanks in villages, free energy clinics, solar stove deliveries to homes that once burned. People didn't just see policy, they saw Zuri, and in her, they saw themselves. Meanwhile, Kendi quietly resigned. No press, no farewell party. She walked out of Neurotech the same way Zuri once had, with people staring. Only this time, no one laughed. Back at the rooftop, the sun dipped lower. Zuri and Ao stood, shoulder to shoulder. Ao turned to her and said, "What do you want to do next?" Zuri thought, then smiled. "Help more girls who smell like smoke." He nodded, because he understood now. The smell wasn't shame. It was memory, survival. Fire, yes, but not destruction. Resilience. That night, Neurotech's rooftop garden held the soft laughter of two souls who had risen from the ashes. Sometimes, the scent they mock is the smoke of survival. Never be ashamed of the fire that shaped you. Your truth has the power to challenge systems, rewrite injustice, and spark change for generations. If this story moved you, don't forget. to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful African tales that inspire, heal, and ignite the soul.